What better place to start than one of the greatest players to ever kick a ball, and definitely the biggest missed opportunity in history? That's right, in 2003, Lionel Messi almost signed for Arsenal. While not much was known at the time about the future multi-time Ballon d'Or winner, Arsene Wenger would later reveal the details of the transfer that very nearly came off. It was just that he was not so keen to move, Wenger told reporters in 2015. It was that period that Cesc Fabregas came. They played on the same team. We wanted to get Fabregas, Messi, and Gerrard Piqué. It worked only for Fabregas. In the end, Messi was comfortable at Barcelona. But dig a little deeper, and it appears that the reason one of the best to ever do it didn't move to Arsenal was all down to accommodation. The English club could not offer a flat for the family, and there would be difficulty obtaining a work permit, Spanish journalist Guillem Balaguer revealed in his book about Messi. Bit by bit, points of mutual interest evaporated until the offer lay dead in the water. But they left Georges, Messi's father, with a message. Anytime you encounter problems, remember, our club wants him. It was never to be though, and a year later, Messi made his debut for Barcelona and never looked back. What could have been, eh, Arsenal fans? Cristiano Ronaldo to Arsenal. Hopefully the Arsenal fans watching have recovered from learning they missed out on Messi, because it is only about to get worse. You guessed it, Arsenal almost had the chance to sign Cristiano Ronaldo. Flashback to 2004, and things were looking pretty for the Gunners. Not only had they just won the Premier League, but they had done so by not losing a single game, and they had just announced plans to build a massive new stadium, which would come to be called the Emirates. But that shiny new stadium was actually what led them to missing out on Ronaldo. According to John Cross of the Daily Mirror, the $460 million stadium was having a serious effect on Arsenal's ability to spend in the transfer window. In February 2004, they finally secured the funding, but by then, they had already missed out on one of the greatest players the sport would ever produce. In 2003, Cristiano Ronaldo was beginning to make his name in his home country of Portugal, and sure enough, plenty of top clubs were paying attention. Arsenal were one of them, and with Wenger's backing, they became seriously interested in bringing the player over to England. But there was just one problem. Arsenal did not have the money. While Ronaldo, at that age, was not going to cost the same amount of money he does today, it was still a chunk of their bank balance at a time when they had the likes of Thierry Henry, Robert Pires, and Dennis Bergkamp on their books. Arsenal were desperate to sign him, but the delay allowed Sir Alex Ferguson and Manchester United to swoop in. Having watched his side play against him in a friendly, Ferguson negotiated on the spot to bring him to Manchester, and the rest is history. Gareth Bale to Birmingham. Speaking of players who would go on to break the world transfer fee, how about Gareth Bale? Long before his $100 million move to Real Madrid, Bale came very close to joining Birmingham City. It's hard to believe now, considering the career he would go on to have, but there was a time when many thought Bale was a flop. When Tottenham signed him in 2007, they stuck him at right back, and incredibly, he went on a 24-game streak before winning a single game. Come January 2009, and Spurs were considering cutting their losses and selling Bale, to the point that they began to look for potential buyers. The most obvious choice was fellow Premier League club Birmingham City, who had just been purchased by Chinese businessman Carson Young, and the new owner had promised manager Alex McLeish a transfer budget of around $50 million. McLeish, having had his fingers burned by missing out on Messi, was convinced of Bale's talent and pushed his board for a $5 million transfer fee offer to Spurs. However, Spurs rejected it, and McLeish was unable to convince the Birmingham board to go any higher. Soon after, Bale scored a memorable hat-trick against Inter Milan in the Champions League in a game that would put him on course for stardom. Zlatan Ibrahimovic to Arsenal. We're sorry to do this to you, Arsenal fans, but here is another huge name you missed out on, and one of the most famous stories of a trial gone wrong. Back in 2000, Arsene Wenger was informed by his scouts of a young Swedish striker who may be worth having a look at, so he invited him to London for a trial. That striker's name? Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Zlatan arrived at Arsenal and was welcomed by Wenger, who not only gave him the number 9 shirt, but introduced him to the squad, including the likes of Henry, Patrick Vieira, and Pires. The trip was going great for Ibrahimovic, until the matter of a trial came up. "No way!" Ibrahimovic reportedly said. "Zlatan doesn't do auditions," showing that strong sense of self-belief that would define his career. Wenger and the adrenal scouts could not believe what they heard. that a 19-year-old Swedish striker would turn down the opportunity to play in the Premier League, but they were never going to sign him without another look, and so Ibrahimovic would move on. The Swede missed out on a Premier League title, but we are sure his very full trophy cabinet helps him sleep at night. Kylian Mbappe to Chelsea. It's across London now as we head to Stamford Bridge and to the home of Chelsea. The name Kylian Mbappe is one that every football fan is more familiar with these days, but that was not the case in 2012. At the time, Mbappe was just 14 years old, and considering his parents had been grooming him for football world fame from a very young age, they set about trying to get a club to sign him. They went across Europe looking for a way in until they arrived in London and to Chelsea, who offered to give Mbappe a trial. Unlike Ibrahimovic, Mbappe was willing to do so, but after the Frenchman performed in front of plenty of watchful eyes, the Chelsea hierarchy were not convinced. They offered him another trial, but his mother angrily refused. Either they sign him now, or within 5 years they'll have to offer 50 million euros to tie him down, she said. And thinking he was just another prospect, Chelsea declined, allowing Mbappe to eventually move to Monaco. It will no doubt take Chelsea a lot more than 50 million euros to sign Mbappe these days. Steven Gerrard to Chelsea. Mr. Liverpool very nearly swapped the red of his beloved club for the blue of one of their biggest rivals, Chelsea. Rumours of Gerrard departing Liverpool go all the way back to 2004, when during the European Championships, he was said to be mulling over a transfer. Pressure from within Anfield, directed at his family, would see him stay on, but a year later, and those same thoughts returned to Gerrard. The iconic captain had guided Liverpool to their 5th European Cup, but was not rewarded for his efforts, as the Anfield club opted to not offer him a better contract. Gerrard felt betrayed, and as a result, decided it was time for him to move on, with Chelsea looking the most likely destination. The Stamford Bridge club offered him a huge deal, and Gerrard was so convinced that he told Sky Sports News he was going to go. The last 6 weeks have been the toughest of my life, and the decision I have come to has been the hardest decision I have ever had to make, Gerrard said. I fully intended to sign a new contract after the Champions League final, but the events of the past 5 or 6 weeks have changed all that. Whatever happened, Gerrard would have a change of heart weeks later and sign a new deal with Liverpool. Robert Lewandowski to Blackburn Rovers. Before he was making history in the Bundesliga, Robert Lewandowski came very close to moving to England and Blackburn Rovers, and the only thing that stopped him was volcanic ash. In 2010, a bid of $6 million from Blackburn to Lech Poznan had been enough to get Lewandowski to Ewood Park, but they ran into a huge problem when they tried to physically get him to the stadium. As he got ready to depart from Poland to the UK, a volcano erupted in Iceland which sent a plume of ash across the sea and over the UK. As a result, all flights in and out of the country were grounded over safety concerns, leaving Lewandowski unable to make it to Blackburn. Where he could get to was Dortmund, and so he signed for the Bundesliga side instead, going on to score 88 goals in 158 games, before moving on to Bayern Munich.